sir. Mr. Alex Bidiako,
Yes, sir.
the concern on the continent of Africa today, every country in Africa has got its own defense force. We are talking about common defense in the African Union. And every country has got its own defense. We don't have a common defense force. In other words, the common defense should have been the defense of the African Union.
Yeah.
But now, all the countries have in their defense. Look at what happened in Cote d'Ivoire. Look at what happened is happening in Libya. The defense is useless. Do you think it is time that we start reconsidering the need for the African Union to have her own army, independent of the member states' army?
Yes, I think it's very important because if we are calling for African Union, it's more or less a big institution on its own, making up of all the various countries in the continent, which is almost about 54 or 53, if I'm right.
Until Saudi Sudan joins.
So, you know, what is the purpose of military? That is the question we have to be asking ourselves. The purpose of military is to defend a territory against external aggression.
Yes.
So if that is the purpose, and our intention is to consolidate the strength of Africa, then that African Union needs a defense force that is also commensurate to its structure. So I think that the African defense force, it will be a very good step in the right direction, because if we have that force, just like we are seeing forces being destroyed within a second, especially Libya and in recent time Cote d'Ivoire, within the shortest possible time, their defense system has been more or less collapsed. So if we actually succeed in the African Union, then I think there is a need for us to have that powerful
I wouldn't want to be a member.
which are independent of the national army, in other words, the various countries' army. Why am I saying this? Because eventually these armies will become the police force of the various countries. In this case, we have even apart from that, if we want everything, we can have territorial army, because if you have an enemy attacking you from a particular direction, then you know that these armies are there to defend. But the positioning of the army, I think, still will be in the various countries and border areas and things. So I think now that this African Union is considering this the strong unification, it is important we have a military structure that is capable to sustain the structure of African Union.
In fact, Mr. Bidiako, a lot of people are even trying to talk about the economic benefits of this army, apart from protecting natural resources, protecting structures, protecting building, and election in particular. A lot of election, even in the United States of America, you can have free and fair. They are contentious, but this election do result in wars, misunderstand, like you saw in the case of Cote d'Ivoire. Do you think the African Union forces, military, would be very, very useful in time when diplomacy fails? How do you see the role of the African Union?
That is in times where diplomacy fails, where diplomacy, I think, not that in times when it fails, it has been failing all the time because diplomacy has not been working. So even the objective of African Union is to make sure that, look, we work as a union, we work as one collective whole, so that our position in terms of bargaining economically, in terms of trading, in terms of negotiating with our other partners around the globe, we make sure that we have a position that cannot be compromised, or that cannot be defeated, or that will not always be at the receiving end. So we will have a balanced win-win situation. So people will say that, look, what is the need for the African Defense Force? You see, just consider the human body. The human body, we have the red blood cell and the white blood cell. They are the defense force in the body. The body is an institution of its own, whole institution, and those are the forces that red blood cells and the white blood cells are the forces within the blood that fight against external aggression in terms of diseases. So you can see that no nation or no union can actually function very well without a very strong force, because you have to look at the nature of human beings. You have to look at the kind of economic situation we are today. We have to look at the kind of global economy today where there is more of aggression. And we also have to remember history, that look, if Africa in those days that people travel far away from Europe and things came to our land, capture our citizens, capture our brothers and sisters, and transport them to the plantation in America and what have you, in Europe and things to work for them. Do you think at that time, if we were to have something like a force to march those people, they would have failed in capturing our people and sending them outside to work for them? So the need for a union's military force or military institution cannot be overemphasized. It's a very vital institution in the development of any country, be it political, be it social, or be it economical. It's fundamentally important.
Yes, sir. So what you are saying is that with the teeming population in Africa today, youth leaving school, no job, going about hopeless, no job, no payment, the African Union force will be really an option, an alternative for our youth to see where they can in organized way be employed in the military, particularly where the military can be used even for farming.
Yes.
So what's your take on the military issue of absorbing our teaming
the traditional role of military for defending the nation or a country? You see that it has changed over the years. Now the military are involved in construction, the military are involved in engineering, the military are involved in farming, the military, they are involved in all aspects of our human endeavor. So we cannot say that having an African military will draw on our resources, but it is an avenue to actually to employ our teeming youth, the population, and also to even assist us to build a capacity more greater than what we have currently. So it is not a question maybe wasting resources, but it is another opportunity for us to employ people who will defend the nation, our countries, our territories against external invasion and external aggression. And that, if you know, there will be even more bargaining power, because currently we don't have those situations. That is why when we agree to sell cocoa at a particular price, another country will go behind the door. Look, talk about economic partnership agreement. Look at that agreement. You can see clearly that the economic partnership agreement is not in any way in the interest of Africa, because one, we are saying that we should reduce our continent to consumption countries. We should not industrialize, and that we should depend on external countries for production for our consumption. When we do that, what happens? It means we are killing our industries. The possibility even establish a new industry does not exist. So I think this African Union, with its structures, are fundamentally important to our survival as a continent, and also to our defense system, especially when we look at the aggression. Nations are now joining forces, joining alliance with each other, and the only way they can do is to intimidate the less developed countries for the interest of their people. So I'm saying that, look, it is time that the African people have to come steadily behind the establishment of African Command through the African military force.
Very much. So there is this concern about military force, that military can be a very dangerous thing if it's not in the capable hands. In other words, if it's not in the right hand. And some are saying that the only person who can be right, like in America, United States of America, the only right person to manage the military is the president-elect. In Ghana today, the only man that manages the military of Ghana that who is in charge of who chooses who run the military is His Excellency, our President. How do that fit into the election of the presidency of the African Union by the people?
Definitely. No, if you want to follow that example, that means that the African Union president become the commander-in-chief of all the military, and therefore the military is under his control, and the decisions and actions are taken from him. And even there may be challenges because in this current global politics, it is about lobbying to even buy people and things. So with this, I think we will be able to put up the various institutional framework, legal framework, empowerment framework, which actually will make sure that the military will function in the interest of the people and not in the interest of anybody. So it depends on the orientation you want to give to the military. You see, the military, they must be made to understand. I am saying that until the head, the head decide that, look, this is what's supposed to be done. Look, the military, they take command and follow that command. Nothing can be done.
So indirectly, the head should be the disciplined one, which is the president of the African Union, responsible to the people.
Exactly.
Then the military will also be responsible.
And as I said earlier on, the head is just the vehicle, and the people are the driving force.
Sure.
So always there is this relationship between them. So that, look, this one is saying that, look, the force are there. They are going to drive me to the destination. If I take any movement without they are even concerned, that means even I risk myself. So I think that it will be in the interest of all of us, as a country, as a continent, to actually buy this idea of African Union Copper.